What up, what up, what up? Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Hey, I just want to let you know, I know everybody can't always support and donate to the podcast, but hey, if you can do a one-time donation, I put up a Buy Me a Coffee link in this description of the podcast. So if you go to the description of the podcast, it'll be at the bottom, and you can just go to that link, and you can buy me a cup of coffee, or two if you want. And that would just help support the show, and I can wake up a little bit more and bring you more info. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you can donate, that would be much appreciated. And let's get on to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, some of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. Tonight we've got a great one. Like I talked about earlier, the Disclosure Project is back in action. 2023, June 12th. Brand new one, and we're going to get right into it because you should have listened to the last podcast. I told you I'm going to get into the one of the very first whistleblowers, and this story is spine-chilling, dude. Okay, it is. And I'm not like hyping it up. I'm an older guy, man. I know a lot about UFO engagements, a lot about UFO abductions, and this deep state, this black ops stuff, dude, is effing terrifying. Okay, so we're going to get to it. So this whistleblower is Michael Herrera, Herrera, and he was in the United States Marine Corps, and this event took place in Indonesia in 2009. My geography isn't that great, but Indonesia is where this took place, and they are welcoming him to the stage, and he's going to talk about his place in the Marine Corps and why they were there, and then what happened. Okay, so he's a bigger dude, taller guy. He's a former U.S. Marine Corps. Doesn't state his MOS yet, although they did go on a humanitarian mission. So in 2009, his unit was the most decorated infantry unit in the entire Marine Corps battalion. The 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, was called in to a humanitarian mission in the Philippines, Operation Kitsano, which was attached to the 31st Marine Expedition Unit for maritime operations in the Southeast Asia Theater. So they were on the 7th Naval Fleet, and they were taken out. He states they were taken out on one of his favorite helicopters, called, I believe it's a Super Stallion. I think it's going to come up here in just a second. But anyway, a tsunami hit this area in Sumatra and western Indonesia, and out of all the ships in the Southern Fleet, the ship he was on was the only one that was routed to that location, which he thought was odd given that it was such a big case, but it was a humanitarian operation, and he wasn't aware of like the logistics, how many ships it would take. So anyway, this happened September 30th, and they get called out, and they dropped anchor on October 8th, and they were briefed in the officers' mess where they ate, and they were told that some of President Obama's family members were present in the city or somewhere near there, and they had a SEAL platoon that was getting ready to go and retrieve those people. Must be nice to be the president. And he stated that Indonesia is also the 2nd largest terrorist capital where they train, and all these guys, want a piece of Americans. So even though it was a humanitarian mission, they strapped these guys up with armor, and they were armed, so that they could protect themselves and provide security for the transportation. And they were just basically dropping off medical supplies and sheltering items, food, purified water, things like that, he states. So they ended up selecting certain Marines to go ahead, and there was 6 Marines in his unit, and it was so spread out they had just NCOs that were in charge, and they boarded a CH-53 Super Stallion, which is, he states, his favorite ship, or his favorite helicopter that's about 100 feet long. And they flew to the southwestern part of the city of Padang. And so I guess Padang is an important city, but he states that it was basically reduced to rubble after this tsunami. Everything you can imagine, fire, just storm, just annihilating this place. He said it was tough to get in. They were just ordered to drop them into a certain part, into a quick landing zone, which took probably about 7 minutes to fly into position. And we were dropped to the LZ, and we got off the bird, and then we were instructed at that point through the briefing to push to high ground to at least get a better observation of the area. Interesting. Okay. So he states at that area, at the highest area, you get a better observation of everything. That's the tactical maneuvering, right? You get to high ground so you can put eyes on everything, especially with 6 Marines, so that we have effective communication at that point. If we need to engage, we can do it properly with the amount of ammunition that they had, which were only M16s and A4s. So they pushed forward and tracked up about 300 meters. And at this time, he had a Panasonic camera as well, interestingly enough, able to take photographs and videos. And when they got to the high point, he states he had a video camera, and it was actually turned to the north, which kind of sloped down. Right there, something stuck out like a sore thumb, especially in the jungle terrain, because everything's vegetation. He states he sees this very bizarre UFO turning around, spinning, and he states this was in prison in his mind for the next 14 years, because what he saw was colors transitioning from a light matte gray to dark black matte, like a Vanta black, like the blackest black you can see. So this craft was circular, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was an octagon. So it wasn't perfectly circular. So they were trying to get a closer look. He places his camera into his sack so he could get down there, and he said there was a very odd thing, because their communications went out as well. And he stated that it could have been very bad or very good, depending on the situation. But he stated they were approximately 150 meters from the craft when they got to a point where they could see it like right in front of them. There was a clearing, and right in front of them, they could see that there was some very large trucks that were beefed up, jacked up, armored up, and had these large containers on them. And they were pointed towards the UFO, almost as if they were loading them into the UFO. Interesting. So we'll get to that in just a minute. He states that there was also a small pyramid-like structure on the very top, which is very interesting as well. He stated there was an audible hum to it, almost like a guitar amp if you were to unplug your guitar plug, right? And he stated that it was very interesting because it was floating about 10 to 20 feet off the ground. It was a very eerie thing to see, he states, because he never saw anything like that in his entire life. And then they were intercepted by a team of soldiers or a rogue military force that had an American accent. They all had American dialects. They had American gear. They had black on black camouflage, black hats, similar setup to, a high spec operation. No insignias, no ranks, nothing that would signify who they were with. Black baseball caps. They had better weaponry than the Marines did. How you like that? And they even had better night vision goggles than they would have. So they had the top of the top weaponry, top of the top equipment. And they got the drop on the Marines. The Marines are supposed to get the drop on everybody. But these guys got the drop on them, and they were screaming at them. The guys in black were screaming at them, asking them who the hell they were. They were threatening to kill them, that they could get lost in the jungle, that they could throw them out of a helicopter if they needed to. And these Marines were nerve-wracked. And he's looking around to his fellow Marines and seeing the fear in their faces. And they basically, said, hey, we're not going to engage. We're got our hands up. They patted them down. They patted the Marines down, and the weapons were taken from them, and they cleared the condition. They cleared the chambers in their weapons, and they emptied their mag pouches, and they started, engaging them. They asked for their military ID. They pulled it out of their left breast pocket, which is where the military identification is. They gave it to them. And then these men in black, not necessarily the men in black, but these camo guys in black, pulled out what looked like a modern day smartphone, but in 2009, which, different time period. iPhone had just come out, but nothing special. And they started doing a biometric tracking of these guys. They started pulling out all the information they could on these guys. They took fingerprints, retina scans. They took pictures of them so they could document, these guys and see who the hell they were. But for some reason it wasn't working. They couldn't scan their IDs. They couldn't get the information up. So there was a bit of challenge for what they were trying to accomplish here. But while they were underneath investigation, they were looking. Herrera was looking behind them, and you could see that these Ford F-350s, the big ones, not 150, not 250, 350, were beefed up, and they had these containers. And these containers were very interesting because they kind of looked like large pods, right? Like moving pods, like a U-Haul, the bed of a U-Haul on the back of a trailer that these 350s were pulling. Okay? So he said that there was a cylinder on the front that looked like it had oxygen, or maybe for vacuum sealing, like what he had seen in his military career. They would vacuum seal drug containers. However, he came across an individual who stated that he had firsthand account information with this project. He actually was part of this project. Not this individual, but another individual he met. And he stated that those containers, they did not carry drugs. They're not putting drugs on UFOs. They were doing human trafficking. They were placing humans that were in these containers that had breathing apparatus in the front, so that oxygen could get in and they could survive. So that's what the breathing apparatus for. That's what that unit in the front of these containers was for. And Herrera says he's really upset about it because this area had already gotten ravaged by a tsunami, and it was almost like it was free chicken. Like these guys just came in, picked up a bunch of Indonesians, and they were going to throw them up and feed them to the aliens. That's what he felt like he was seeing, and that's what he feels is hugely detrimental, right, to the human race. Obviously, very disheartening. Very disheartening. So he's very, very upset now. He didn't know what he was really seeing back then. So he's just kind of going along with, hey, we're getting, we're under fire here. We got to give them what they want. Try not to get killed. So these guys were continuing. The guys in black were still pointing the weapons at them. They were still going through their gear, and Michael saw them start to load these containers right underneath the UFO that was hovering. And as these trucks drove off, what happened is there was a platform on the ground, and it actually rose up off the ground itself, and the top part of the bottom part of the craft met it in the middle of the air, and it formed one solid piece, and then went into the UFO. The UFO lifts right above the tree line, and as soon as it got above the tree line, it was gone in the blink of an eye. He stated that it had to have been traveling 5,000 miles an hour or more because it was simply gone that fast. No sound, no shutter wind, no blowing of the trees, no blowing of the coconuts in the trees, nothing. Like it was never there. I mean, that's what's mind blowing. We watch all these movies and we expect a sonic boom. We expect, the trees to be blowing off all over. No, these things don't go by standard physics, and they don't disrupt the area. So he stated a couple things went through his head at that point. He said, we're going to get killed. We saw way too much. These guys are going to kill us. But all of a sudden, these guys put their weapon back and kind of rip it around their necks and put it on their back. They put their magazines on their back of the vest so they can't really grab at it. And Michael states that the slings that the guns were held on were subpar that were given to the military in 2009. Interestingly enough, not that long ago, you would think that they'd be pretty decent, but they cut his neck while they were trying to ratchet these things back onto him. They were told not to look back. They kicked him out. They were not able to talk to anyone. There were two guys that were stating, "Hey, should we smoke these guys right now?" And they were kind of feeding into the fear, but he said it was very bizarre because these guys were American. They had American sidearms, American gear, and they take an oath. And they were, an oath to protect the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. And these guys were going to kill these Marines who were only out there to do a job. They weren't out there to go kill these guys. They were out there to do a job. Now, granted, the guys in black, whatever they are, they have a job to do too, so they have to secure their area. But it seems very, very bizarre. So they get back to their landing zone. They're asked, why you guys, take so long? Why are your guns on your back? Da 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 da. They made up a story. So they get back to their ship out at sea. They were debriefed by an admiral that Michael had never seen before, and it was somebody who seemed like he was out of place. He didn't know if there was any relevance to this admiral to what was going on, but they were told that, basically they were going to fast track to a couple days later in the bay, where they were given 3 days of freedom. He said, the first night we had to report back to the ship. Each night we were not allowed to stay out in the town. He stated when he got back, his camera that was on his rack, the memory card that was in it was taken out. His battery was taken out. And the camera was left. He said he had secured this camera in his locker, and stuff had been piled on top of the camera. So whoever did it knew what happened. And the other notable thing that was each of the Marines that were with me also had their cell phones taken, even though they didn't bring them on the mission. Other stuff was missing as well. However, no one else in the platoon had their items removed except for these 6 guys. So moving forward, once they got back to Okinawa, he got a call from while he was in the barracks, and he was told that he needed to go up and talk to another officer. Oddly enough, in this building, he states there was no one there except for one gentleman wearing Air Force dress blues, and he was missing a name tag, and that's not Air Force policy. So he states that he pulled him into the office, and he said, you are not allowed to tell anybody in your chain of command. I don't care if it's a general. I don't care if it's anybody. You are not allowed to talk about what happened. You can go to prison for this, or you could be killed. So he slid over a non-disclosure agreement, and I had 2 things that I can recall to this very day, he states, because he quickly skimmed through it, and he was losing his mind just thinking about what the hell was going on. And it said TSSCI, top secret, and then the other thing said Indonesia. That's all he remembered. He was forced to sign it. He signed it, and he got the hell out of there as quickly as he could. And he tried to ask the Air Force guy who he was, and he was, of course, brushed off and walked away. Never saw the guy again. The only reason he can come out now is because there was a law passed to allow him to come out. And he's urging everyone in Washington, D.C., or any political figures to come out and help them in this disclosure project, because people are being threatened to be killed or are being killed because of this entire project. Whatever the project is, these guys are being threatened. They're being possibly, killed over this, ridiculousness. One thing that's interesting is that he asked one of his platoon members to come forward with him, okay? And what he got was this response. Okay, this is a message. I don't know if it's a text message or if it's a written message, but this is the message and the quote here from his platoon member that was there because he wanted a second guy to come up to give him extra credence. This guy tells him, quote, "Hey man, this is asking too much of me, and it's not worth the risk. My family and military career far exceed anything you are asking of me. It's not worth my life or jeopardizing my family. I know we go back, like they go back far, but this is asking too much. You need to get out of whatever you're in and don't get me involved with this mess. My career isn't worth helping you. Don't ever ask me to do this shit ever again." That's that, and that's the end of the quote. So he couldn't get anyone to come forward with him. It doesn't matter because he did a great job of this story. But he didn't want, it makes sense. Who the hell wants to put their life on a line to come out for nothing? What is he going to gain? Only thing he's going to gain is getting killed, getting his family killed, or getting his pension taken away, or something else. But apparently, this was a guy that was almost willing to come forward. Greer states that they did reach out to the 5 other guys in the platoon, and they're not releasing their names because they asked to not release their names. But Herrera did release, this quote that he got from one of his friends, So it just goes to show you that so many of these people are terrified to come forward and say anything. That's why Greer, in this disclosure project, notified the White House and the Congress to give 6 to 12 months of anonymity to or not anonymity, but freedom to not be prosecuted, so that these guys could come out with their story, and not have to worry about getting their entire lives upended or getting prosecuted or their families being threatened or whatever the case is on anything. So yeah, man, I mean, this is wild stuff because if it's going Greer's way, and Greer's stating that this is all the government and that all these alien reproduction vehicles are ours, are the government's, then we were down there. And if it's true that there were humans in those containers, then they're stating that the government or some black op agency, maybe it's not the government, maybe it's a black op agency, is human trafficking. And if that's true, if it's a black op agency, not part of the government, then why did an Air Force, quote unquote, official come down and have him sign a non-disclosure agreement? Was that even an Air Force official? Or was that part of, like a black ops company, fake dressing up as an Air Force official with no name tag, having him sign a non-disclosure agreement, freaking this guy out, stating that he could be killed or imprisoned, just to get him to sign this NDA so that he's worried about and never coming out with this story for the rest of his life. Well, he came out with it. So what are you going to do now? So it's very interesting. It's very fascinating. So let's get to like my thoughts. My thoughts. I've heard stories about us doing, if let's say this was an alien ship, not a government ship. I've heard stories about us trading beer. Okay. That, could it have been beer in those containers? Maybe, but would it have really needed like a breathing apparatus in the beginning of the container? Probably not. Is this the way they would distribute beer in the middle of the forest? Probably not. Does this seem like an event that would have taken place in the middle of a forest where they would have done human trafficking in the middle of a forest? Sounds like that's where you would do some human trafficking, in the middle of a forest. So, you scoop up a bunch of people, you put them into a bin, and you do it not on a military base. You do it out in the middle of nowhere, and you pay these guys a whole shit ton of money, and off they go. Now, if this is human trafficking, and if these guys are, some black op agency, not the government agency, but some secondary agency they hired, or somebody was hired to do this, How? I don't care how much money you're paid. How the hell can you sleep with yourself at night knowing that you sent off a whole bunch of humans to the aliens to be experimented on, to be killed, to be tortured, to be sent to another planet to live, whatever the case is? You know it's not good. If it's not volunteer, it's not good. Okay. And it doesn't look volunteer with the way that these things look like, like those pods that you can get to move. You can stack up your own furniture into. You can order these pods to come to your house. They're called pods, or there's another name for them. But anyway, or like the back of a U-Haul bed. It's all like a shipping container, just all metal. There's no windows on this thing. They just look like it was cattle to be shipped off. So, what do I think? Do I think that that could happen? Sure. I mean, it doesn't seem like they were shipping beer in this. According to Randy Kramer, we're the best at shipping beer. We would have shipped it out of a warehouse where the beer was cold and shipped it, out of a location where it was being made. So it's not general commerce that we're shipping off here. It's something special, whatever that case is. Is it humans? I can't say for sure. I don't think anybody can. But is it cows? Seems to me that aliens can come get cows if they want them. That seems to be not really a big issue. Now let's go to the human aspect. Let's say this is a human ship, and they're taking these humans up in this ship. What the hell would they do with them? What the hell would they be doing with them? Would they be would the humans be taking them on on the ship and then taking them on the ship up to an alien transfer center and trading them for something? Maybe. Maybe. I really don't know, man. I don't know, man, but it's fucking disturbing. It's fucking disturbing, none to say the least. Honestly, I'm surprised if that's the case and they let these guys go. I'm mind boggled that they let these guys go. These guys should have been jungle toast, you know, just blobs in the jungle, because there's no way that most of these guys would have let them go. But then, then they have a whole scenario on their hands where, maybe the military's coming after them. They don't want to kill them. So I don't know, man. It's a wild story. I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't know how far I can go, you know, any further other than that. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna let you go. I hope you're having a great night, taking care of yourselves physically, spiritually, emotionally, following through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams, and as always, continue to question the universe around you. Till next time, guys, take care. Lockdown Universe out.